Initial results from the presidential polls in the Democratic Republic of Congo begin to trickle in on Friday, and the nation's Electoral Commission, CENI, announced results for Congolese voters living in South Africa, Belgium, France, Canada, and the United States. The results represent a small proportion of the overall votes cast, but they indicated a provisional lead for incumbent President Felix Tshisekedi, who is running for a second term. The country held 4 concurrent polls on Wednesday to elect the president, lawmakers for national and provincial assemblies, as well as local councilors. CENI is set to start announcing provisional results for the DRC's 26 provinces today. All right, let's get more on this. We have Chris Ochemringa standing by for us in the DRC capital, Kinshasa. Chris, welcome to the program. Thank you for taking time to speak to us here on Africa Live. Chris, let's start with what's happening. Results have begun trickling in, as they say. What's the latest at this hour? What do we know?
Yes, Richard. So the results that were announced by the Electoral Commission on Friday night were from 5 countries that were allowed to participate in this year's elections. The countries are Belgium, France, Canada, the United States, and South Africa. And these are countries that have a large population of Congolese citizens, and that's why they were chosen to participate in this year's election. And according to the results, President Felix Tshisekedi came first with 80.9%. His main challenger, Moise Katumbi, came second with 11% of the votes cast. Third was opposition leader Martin Fayulu with 3.8%. And fourth was Dr. Denis Mukwege with 3% of the votes cast. Now, the rest of the presidential candidates got less than 1%. There are altogether 19 candidates who are in this race, including President Felix Tshisekedi, who is seeking a second term. And like you mentioned, Richard, the Electoral Commission has said that they're still tabulating the results that they have received from different provinces, the 26 provinces around the country, and they're later going to release initial results of that of the election. So we are monitoring that very closely. Richard?
Chris, with what you've just said, observers are starting to appeal for calm and patience. What is the situation like around the tallying centers, and what can we expect in the remaining days before the final declaration?
Well, the main tallying center in Kinshasa has got a lot of deployment of police officers. They have their armored vehicles and their riot gear, anti-riot gear. They are already in that area. We've also seen some police officers around the headquarters of the Electoral Commission in Kinshasa, and people who are accessing that area have to have an accreditation. So there's a limit to how many people can access that area to prevent any kind of protests or people who disagree with the outcome that will be announced later today. And we have also spoken to some opposition members who were saying that they are working on a joint statement, issuing a joint statement regarding the conduct of the elections. They earlier rejected the elections and called for a rerun, something that's very unlikely to happen. But this time there are more opposition candidates who have come out, and they're going to release a statement today. And one of the issues in this statement is, they're quoting Article 64 of the DRC Constitution. That article states that all Congolese citizens have the duty to oppose any individual or group of individuals who try to seize power by force or exercise it in violation of the DRC Constitution. Now that is, something that, has the potential of, leading to protests around the country, especially in those strongholds of some of these opposition candidates. The government is aware of that, and they're preparing, to crack down on any opposition, any protests that break out after the announcement of the results. Richard?
Chris Ochemringa, thank you so much for that update and report. Let's see if we can bring Enoch Sokolia into this conversation. Enoch Sokolia is in the eastern DRC's Goma city, and he's standing by. Enoch, thank you for joining us as well. Enoch, you earlier reported a very quiet city of Goma after the 2 days of voting. What is happening there right now? What do we know?
Well, Richard, what I can tell you is that people have gone back to their business, but there is a lot of anxiety. They are following up on what is happening as they await the results of the presidential election more, because they are more concerned about who becomes the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo and the fate, especially of the Eastern Congo as far as the issue of security is concerned, because they know that whoever becomes the president of the Republic of Congo holds to the key of what will happen here in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Remember, in here there is a lot of internally displaced people stretching all the way from Goma town to a place known as Nyiragongo, which is like 3 kilometers apart. That stretch is dotted with IDP camps, or the camps for the internally displaced persons. And when you talk to a majority of them, they are really following up on what is happening, and as they await the final verdict of who becomes the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Richard?
Well, beyond Goma, what are you hearing from the rest of North Kivu and Ituri provinces as vote counting and the release of results continue?
Well, Richard, I can tell you, yesterday there was a lot of tension, not in Goma, but in a place called Masisi. You remember Masisi is one of the areas that have been marred by conflict since March 2022, and there was a lot of tension there. We heard that the rebels were regrouping, and they were ready to kickstart again fresh violence in Masisi. And what we can also hear is that some of them are trying to take the advantage of the void that was left. Remember, the last batch of the ICRAF, which are the East Africa Community Regional Forces, left just 2 days ago, and that is why now they are regrouping, trying to take advantage of the void that was left in that area. Today it's relatively calm. We've tried to follow up on what is happening there, but it's relatively calm. And as I told you, Masisi is one of the two territories here in Eastern Congo, or in North Kivu province, that did not vote. They didn't participate in the just concluded election or voting process. So here, when you look at Goma and the outskirts of Goma, people are anxiously waiting for the results. But in the other area is where people are now keen on what happens during this electioneering period and after the results will be announced. So we are keen, and the people here are also keen, following up on the results and whatever happens in the outskirts of Goma town.